Oh, hello, and welcome to our office. It's Joel.
It's me.
It's
me.
Prop Live.
It's Prop Live.
We are here to talk about 3D printing today with none other than the 3D printing nerd, Joel. How you doing, Joel?
I'm doing great.
You have your coffee?
I drank a lot of it this morning.
Good.
I knew that I was going to be doing this, so I had 2 extra shots on top of the shots I usually get.
Espresso?
Yes.
Good gravy. This is it. This is actually coffee from yesterday.
Yeah.
That I did not drink because I made way too much, so I threw it in the fridge and now I'm drinking it again.
I can't do cold coffee. I've tried.
Silent Warlock's very excited to say hi to Joel.
Hi, Silent Warlock cosplay.
Along with the rest of the Prop Tarts.
What's up, Prop Tarts?
I just noticed all of in the chat, everything's all Halloween colors.
Oh, look at that.
Yeah.
That's green and blue and it's
That is because it's Halloween.
It is Halloween. Happy Halloween, everybody. Happy Halloween.
We were trying to take a photo earlier, and I can't see with this mask on. This is a Reaper mask made by Henchman Studios, my buddy Jordan. And I was trying to wear it and wear my glasses over it, and some people in the chat had comments about wearing glasses over costumes, and that reminded me of a story.
Ooh.
I might have been 9 or 8 years old. I don't remember. Quite young. My twin brother did a Robin costume. I did a Batman costume. To make the mask, I believe it was black, like Halloween store, just normal. What would you call it?
Like a face,
like just a domino mask.
The eye shield,
just
thing.
over the eyes.
Okay.
A hoodie, and then little felt bat ears were pinned on it. My mom helped me make this, and then like a felt bat symbol, right, and a cape.
Okay.
So I was like a pretty legit 8-year-old Batman, but I wore glasses all through growing up.
Oh.
And they had to go on over the mask. So they were over the cheap, oversized, like, domino mask. So my glasses were barely perched on my head. And we went to the Fort Ontario. Anyone from central New York knows Fort Ontario. And they have a spooky Halloween thing at the fort. It's an old Revolutionary War fort. So it's probably actually haunted. But there was a giant rock in front of the fort, and I climbed on the rock as Batman, and I spread my cape to leap off of the rock. It was probably 3 feet off the ground. But I leapt, and as I sailed through the air, my glasses fell off my face because they were barely on there. They landed on the ground before me, and then I landed on them.
Oh, no!
So for the rest of the night, Batman had to hold his glasses to his face so he could see and get candy.
Did you? I mean, you still got candy. You still had a good Halloween.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Wow.
Yeah. Good story. Anyway, happy Halloween, everybody. Today we're going to talk about 3D printing, and I thought we'd start by just talking about kind of what's out there right now.
Right now?
Like what's kind of available. What are the things people are using in the See, we have an opportunity here. Joel is in touch with the 3D printing community. We're in touch with the cosplay community, and this is where the two
kind of
worlds
meet up
collide.
a little bit. That's right.
Yeah. So I'm wondering what are the things people are talking about in 3D printing right now? What are people excited about? New machines, new techniques, new software.
There's always new machines, and what we see is new machines coming from China, and we're seeing them raise the quality bar. Mm-hmm. So we're seeing a lot of. I remember you did a video with the ANET A8.
Yep.
And it was like, it was a little sketchy at times, but. Now we're seeing printers that are a few $100s that include a touch screen and proper mains wiring and all sorts of features like bed leveling and the ability to print flexible materials. Nice. So as far as the 3D printing is concerned, we're seeing a lot of these lower cost machines with a higher quality bar, which means that we're seeing more people able to print cosplay and prop items at home that may not have done it in the past.
Right. Yeah. I'm excited about that. What did I see recently? Crap. I had a perfect idea in my head, but someone printed on. I was just at TwitchCon.
Okay.
I think it was Shepherd of Men who did a full set of armor on I think it was a CR10.
Yeah.
It was insane. Like he 3D printed an entire set of armor on like a $300 printer.
Well, what's great, it's nuts, but it's becoming...
He did upgrade a couple of things on it.
Sure.
But to think of doing that with a machine that cost less than $2,000, a couple of years ago would be insane.
Oh, it'd be insane.
Yeah.
But to be able to take a couple $100 machine, upgrade a few components on it, and then have the reliability to be able to print an entire set of armor. I mean, he still had to sand it.
Oh, yeah.
And prime it and all that stuff, but it was able to print it at a quality level that was good enough. Where, I mean, he didn't have to glue a bunch of things together. The large build volume allowed him to print these large things, which he then sanded, painted, primed, and showed off at TwitchCon, which is fantastic, and we're seeing a lot more of that.
Yeah, we saw. I think his was the only one that was mostly 3D printed, but there were a couple of other people that incorporated 3D printing in one way or another in their costumes, which is pretty great.
I think that what we're also seeing is the price come down for resin 3D printing.
Right.
And normally when we talk about 3D printing, we talk about melting plastic and depositing it layer by layer, kind of like a robot arm with a glue gun. You know glue guns.
I do know glue guns.
But
intimately.
With resin 3D printing, we have something that dips into a vat of goo, and then it cures that resin layer by layer with a laser or with light, and then at that point, it raises the build plate and just does it over and over. But because it's light or laser, we can get much finer layers, which gives us much greater detail, which means we can get high detailed, ultra tiny parts. And if you're doing a prop or you're doing some cosplay and you make most of it out of foam or Warbla or whatever you're doing, you know, those tiny little things that could best be made by digital fabrication, you can now do it for a lot less money.
Yeah. And you can mix and match too using SLA or using an FDM printer for like big pieces and SLA for small parts.
That's right.
And I got really excited. I mean, I have a Form 2 that I love. I printed something on it yesterday.
That's
it's amazing.
Essentially the Cadillac of home-based
But
resin.
Prusa put out their own, that's the wrong one. There it is. Their own SLA printer for what, like $1,600?
Yeah, it's right around there. What happened, Prusa went and acquired a company in the Czech Republic that was doing SLA printing, and then he devoted a bunch of his engineers to making it better. And so the Prusa SL1, I think it is, has a lot of really cool features that the Form 2 provides, but it's at a lower cost.
At a much lower cost.
Form 2 still has automatic resin filling,
which is awesome.
This does not, but let's say you can save $1,000 or $1,500, and all you have to do is add the resin yourself. That could be appealing to a lot of people.
It's a good $2,000 cheaper than the Form 2.
Yep.
Yeah, so it's quite a savings. What I'm excited about is for people who have the skills to do really highly detailed digital fabrication, 3D modeling, sculpting, now have a much lower cost machine that they can use to showcase those skills.
Yep.
So I'm more excited that this would be an entry point for people to get into SLA, right?
Oh yeah, absolutely. The Moai by a company called Peopoli. Wanhao makes something I believe called the D7. There are a lot more high detail resin based 3D printers that will allow you to showcase your modeling skills.
Yeah. Especially
for a lot less money.
When people are cranking out things done in ZBrush with just a ridiculous level of detail.
Oh, hey, look at that. It's me.
Hey, look at that guy. An FDM printer, some detail can be so highly fine detail that FDM printer won't even see it. A slicer ignores it. It just cruises right past it.
Oh, right.
But you put it through a machine like the Moai, and it's like, oh, it's got all that texture.
Well, in FDM printing, you have a nozzle that spits out the filament, and that nozzle has a certain diameter.
Yeah.
And if a feature is smaller than the diameter of the nozzle, then it'll ignore it because it knows it can't recreate it.
So that's kind of where we are right now, and I'm excited to see what people start making with these even higher fidelity machines. Very exciting.
I think the next 12 to 24 months are really going to be a showcase of these high fidelity, high quality, sometimes ultra small models that people make and create.
Yeah. So here's an example. This now this is hardly fair because this was printed on an Eden on like $150,000 printer, but like, oh geez, that is.
There you go.
Focus. Anyway, tiny little, and there it goes. Tiny little model, and it's hard to tell, but it's got all the detail in there. Anyway, there you go. But it's similar, or this is a objet or polyjet. Very different process.
I don't remember off the top of my head.
Yeah. Anyway,
that's awesome.
But also like the Form 2 can print things that good, and the the Moai and the like these printers that are like $2,000 or less can print stuff that good, which what used to be 5 years ago something you only get on a $150,000, $250,000 machine.
That's right. Now the barrier to entry being cost is not nearly as much. Yeah. So I think what we're going to see as far as this resin-based printing, we're going to start seeing these low-cost resin-based printers now become larger because the Moai now has a huge printer. I think it's 200 by 200.
Oh.
Right. And if that is not the limit in the future, then it's just going to get bigger, and we're going to have these machines that can create these highly detailed, I mean, you're going to be printing for weeks, but if that's what you need, if the business or the costume or the prop that you're making requires that, then you devote the time to a robot helping you.
Yeah. Joel, you brought something that you made. Could you go get that for me? Thanks, buddy. So I would say this is Joel's first step towards a larger world of cosplay. And Joel made a Daft Punk helmet.
I had a lot of comments from people saying this is not an accurate representation of the Daft Punk helmet, and to them I say I don't care.
Yeah.
because now someone else modeled this, but I feel comfortable saying I made it because I printed the parts. Mm-hmm. This was actually 120% scale of the normal model, so it fit over my head with my glasses.
Yep.
Which also meant that I could put 5 rows of LEDs in there, and I'm using the Adafruit NeoPixels.
Yep.
And I'm using the Neo Matrix library, which then allows me to do funny things like the eyeballs that you showed earlier. You want to hold it? I can get out the eyeballs. So the eyeballs themselves, it's just it's crazy how easy it was to design, and I'm just using the Blue Fruit app from Adafruit, which is a little platform that allows you to.
Oh, you know what? Why don't I just put it on?
Why don't you put it on? Okay, so.
And I can keep my glasses on.
There you go. So there's Bill. He's blinking. Oh, Bill. The eyes can look right and left. They can look straight and they can blink. And then when Bill's really happy, oh, he loves you guys. He loves the Prop Tarts. Look at that. He loves me too. Thanks, Bill. There we go.
That is really good.
It's surprising how easy it was to do the programming for that because it's using an Arduino.
Was there an article on Adafruit about that?
The article for Adafruit included 2 lines for LEDs for this specific build, and it was using the NeoPixel library. So it didn't animate it in a matrix format. It just knew it had a line, and it said, here, I'm going to animate them in a certain way. So what I did, I took what they did, and then I just went exploring on my own. I wanted more pixels. I wanted more lines of LEDs, and then I went about finding the right code to make the eyeballs. And then I said, okay, well, I want to make them blink. So I wrote that, and then I said, I want to move them, which is essentially just offsetting the eyes on the grid. And then I can do messages and then custom. And so it's a continued iteration of stuff. Just like when you build something, you might say, I'm going to build it again, but I'm going to use a different process for building it. Or I'm going to use a different method for adhering the pieces or something like that. I feel like code itself is very similar to making because it's this iterative process of debugging and adding features and doing cool stuff.
So what there's a battery.
Yep.
And then you said that what's the brains in there?
So it's an Adafruit. Well, Blue Fruit is the app that Adafruit provides for free to control its low energy Bluetooth devices. Okay. I'm using an Adafruit Blue. It's a 32U4. There we go. It's the Adafruit Feather. It's the Feather. It's a 32.
There we go.
Yeah. It's a $30 board, but it's an Arduino, and you can address things and write code, and it can control motors and steppers, and it can take button input and Bluetooth low energy input. You can hook up cameras. I mean, it's a fully featured, not Android. What am I? It's
Arduino.
Arduino. Thank you. It's that other A word.
But it can talk to your phone.
But it can talk to the phone through Bluetooth low energy.
That's so cool. Of course, Joel has some videos on his YouTube channel about this helmet.
There you go.
So we'll share those in the show notes.
I did a video on making it.
People are curious about how well one can see out of this.
Oh.
So why don't we do that? And with the light, actually, I'll do this. It's more like that, so you can kind of see through it. Let's point it at Joel's face.
There we go. Point at my face. So because of the slits, you can kind of see, and when your eyeballs are a few inches from the slits between the LED strips, then you can see a little bit better depending on how light it is outside. And just like, if you move the slits up and down really quick, then your eyes interpolate that as its own image. Yeah. I know it's not the best work, but I'm really happy with how this turned out, and I used Carnauba wax as my finish on it. I didn't know what the proper way was of finishing a glossy surface, and so I thought, well, why don't I just rub some wax on it? And
there you go.
I know I could have done a better job, but I think
always improving.
I think this is okay. I think this is cool.
I can confirm is cool.
See, if Bill thinks it's cool, then
yay.
then it is cool.
Joel, what sort of 3D printing stuff you've been up to lately? Is there anything printing right now that you're really excited about?
Let's see. There's a couple things. One, I'm almost finished with my OpenRC F1 project. So the OpenRC project is an open model, essentially, of a little F1 race car by someone by the name of Daniel Norre over in Sweden. And he created this model thinking that if all you have to do is go and buy the electronics and some nuts and bolts, and then you can have your own RC car. I scaled the model up to 400% scale. It has 47 pounds of plastic in it, and it took 1,200 print hours to make. I got sponsored by Castle, who does a lot of RC components, and they sent me these prototype motors. The goal was to scale this up to see if it was a viable thing that could be done. We've had to change a few things just because motors the small motors don't scale in size. They actually are compact. But I mean, for the most part, it's 98% the same model, just larger. And I'm really close to running it. I had to create a new piece to let the motor slide out a little bit more to make the belt around the sprocket gear tighter. And I just have to put that in, and I have and then we'll see if it spins.
All right.
Which is kind of fun. That'll be soon. The other thing I'm working on is kind of cool. There's at the Midwest Rep Rap Festival, which is a big 3D printing yearly gathering, where I mean, it started as some guys in a garage drinking beer, wanting to talk about 3D printers, and now it's attended by 19 different countries in the world.
Wow.
It's 2.5 hours outside of Chicago. So even if you
fly into Chicago and then you got to drive,
and then you still got to drive 2.5 hours.
Yeah.
It's in Goshen, Indiana. It's Amish country. Like, there is horse and buggy parking at the Walmart in Goshen. It's great. But there, a guy by the name of Tony Krager is demoing something called the Railcore 2, and it was a 3D printer with a lot of really good components, just high quality components. And normally when we talk about 3D printing, we talk about layer heights of in like 0.1, 0.2, 0.3 millimeters, and then when you're using resin or 3D printers, you're talking 0.1 is like the worst, 0.05 it gets really good, 0.025. This thing is a plastic melting 3D printer that can, when tuned, print at 0.01.
What?
Layers.
My Ultimaker will do 0.06.
Yes.
So that is 6 times the resolution.
Six times the resolution.
The vertical resolution.
That's right. And
holy crap.
It's reliable. It's a kit, but it's everything is linear rails and high quality components. But the idea was to create this kit and then say, I made something that works. Here's the BOM. Here's the bill of materials, right? And just go build it yourself. And so a lot of people have built this. A lot of people have contributed to making it a good machine. And then a company called R3D said, we want to make that a kit so that if people don't want to get it because they don't want to source all their own parts from China, we'll source all the parts and then they can just put the kit together themselves. So Adam is helping with this. And Robert from Merch Minion, he put it together because he really likes that. And now I have the machine to kind of print it, tune it, and kind of talk about it because awesome. It's really interesting, and then I'm going to give it back.
What's that one called?
It's called a Railcore. Railcore 3D printer. There you go.
Look at that. And that's just
yeah.
Maybe that one? Maybe
it's probably one of them. There we go.
There. Look at that.
And full kits are available from Project R3D.
That's fantastic. I love it so much. Well, I know that a lot of the people who watch our videos and people who are on our live stream are getting into 3D printing more and more. In fact, we've reached a tipping point.
Really?
So 5 years ago, if I made a YouTube video and I 3D printed part of my prop, people sometimes not prop tarts, disgruntled people in the chat or in the comments on YouTube. Let's be specific. Would say, well, you're cheating. The machine did it for you.
Yep.
And I'm like, well, actually, I 3D modeled it.
Did
Whatever.
You do this? Were you like,
well. In the past 5 years, it's swapped. Now, if I build something and I don't 3D print it, those same people are like, why did you just 3D print it? And I'm like, yeah, you're right. It probably would have been better if I 3D printed it. But a lot of people, because that attitude has shifted in our community, and because the price has plummeted on FDM 3D printers, a lot of people are getting into it. And a lot of people want to know which printer to buy, right? If their first printer, they're just getting into this.
Right.
They've never built their own kit. They never tinkered with 3D printing. They're unfamiliar with it, and they want to know which one to get. Now, our buddy Bob from I Like to Make Stuff put out a great bits video recently.
He's done very
talking
great
about picking out a 3D printer, and he was good to not specifically say just get this one, but to list the criteria that might be important to someone, so that people can make a great informed decision. And I was wondering if you have a good list of criteria that people can or questions they can ask themselves that would help them pick out a printer. Other than like, how much do you want to spend? Or like, how big is the 3D printing volume going to be? What are other considerations when it comes to picking out your 3D printer?
You always want to try to think about what do you want to print. Mm-hmm. If you want to print large things, then there's a certain category of machines you should look at. But if you're looking at printing gaming miniatures, then your thought process should shift to another kind of 3D printing. Yeah. But I mean, really, we're getting to this point where budget isn't the largest concern anymore because the price keeps lowering for these machines. And so it's more about, what do you have the space for? What sort of materials do you want to use in it?
Yeah, it's true.
How is the power consistent at your house, or do you need a UPS to go along with it?
Yep.
Is there a draft, or do you need to enclose your machine?
An example, if you want to try and print ABS. Now, I prefer to print in ABS.
You do love ABS.
But you have a CR10. Mm-hmm. We tried very hard to print ABS on the CR10. The problem is that the bed just would not get up to temperature.
No, it wouldn't.
It was enclosed and set to 90 C for like 5 hours.
5 hours.
And it didn't get up to 90.
It got up to 70 something.
Now you could modify the machine to be able to do that.
Oh, absolutely. We could have taken this $400 machine and sourced our own silicone heater from China.
Or put a different print bed on it, or put a separate power source just for the print bed.
That's right.
There are things we could do, but as someone just getting into it, they may not understand that. Buy this machine and they can't use it because they bought a bunch of ABS and it won't work. Bill said to buy ABS, but I got a CR10 and it won't work. Screw that Bill guy. So the material you plan to print with does make a huge difference.
It does. It really, really does.
Now, Chad, my buddy from Hoku Props, who I saw this weekend, actually, I got to find a picture of this. So he also had all 3D printed armor.
Of course he did.
But he also had 8 fog machines on his armor. 8 different vape fog machines.
That's amazing.
It was so good. I guess it may not be updated on here. I'll go to like his Instagram. Yeah.
So I gotta ask, because in every photo, it's characters with left eye. Does he have a fake eye? Is he missing an eye?
He is missing his left eye.
Really?
Yeah.
I love it when people are able to integrate their uniqueness into their costume, into their props. I think that is just brilliant because
okay, here we go.
That is so cool.
Yeah. So, I'm in this photo too. How great is that?
Hey, look at that.
Now Chad 3D prints everything in PLA.
Okay.
PLA is much easier to print with than ABS.
I agree.
But in my opinion, much more difficult to sand.
And I agree there too.
But Chad has a setup where he can get a print, and then he has an HVLP sprayer and a spray booth so that he can hose it down with catalyzed body filler. Like we did with the Lucio gun that you haven't sanded yet.
Johnny, the voice of Lucio, is coming to Emerald City Comic Con, so the goal is to finish it in time to bring it to
That's
him.
a good goal. But Chad has the space and the tools to do that, which means he doesn't sand the print lines off. He just hoses it with a catalyzed finish, and then he sands that.
Right.
So for him, that process works better, and I think he has like 3 CR10s, and he just always just oozing PLA.
One of the things, if you don't have that sort of setup, though, for PLA, wet sanding is an incredible option, because with PLA, when you're sanding, the friction generates enough heat where it can deform the material you're actually trying to sand. If you use wet sanding, then that water sinks away the heat, and the water also takes away the debris material, so your sandpaper is actually hitting what you want.
Yeah.
And if you just dip some sandpaper in water and you sand for a couple minutes and then dip and sand, then you rinse it off, and you're left with really smooth PLA that wasn't as hard had you not used wet sanding.
Is that what you did on your helmet?
A lot of wet
sanding.
A lot of wet sanding on the helmet, yeah.
I'm seeing someone in the chat, Foxtrot13 says, PETG is easier to sand, but not as hard to print as ABS.
That's true.
A lot of options out there. And if you wanted to go with that, then you would want to pick a printer that you know prints PETG very well.
PETG prints closer to PLA temperatures than it does to ABS, which means you don't need a bed that gets as hot. You also don't need a nozzle that gets as hot as ABS usually needs, but typically you're going to need to upgrade something if you want to attempt, PETG or nylons or ASA or other materials on a CR10.
Right. Yeah. So yeah, material selection is very important.
That's right.
Since I've committed to the ABS lifestyle, a couple things. One, whenever Joel has a spare roll of ABS filament, I'm like, gobble, 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 gobble.
There you go.
But also, I've tuned the settings and the enclosure on my Ultimaker to only print ABS, so that when I need to print something, I drop it into Cura. I'm like, spit out a file and go, and it always works. So I think a lot of people, once they have like their stable of 3D printers or like a certain printer, so some people, I saw Nerdy Views in the chat is loving his Prusa Mark II. Mm-hmm. I know a lot of people, once they have one printer they like, they just get 2 or 3 more.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And they all get tuned the same way, and they use the same material, the same filament, and they can just go off to the races.
Well, at that point, 3D printers aren't this hobbyist thing. It's a tool to get work done.
Yeah. And
like, is a business going to have a stable fleet of cars that are all different makes and models? No, they're all going to buy usually the same car because it saves on labor and work and upkeep and maintenance and replacement parts.
Yeah,
I think once you're past this beginning hobbyist point and you get your second 3D printer, your mindset shifts and you're like, how can I make my life better?
Right.
And for you, it's a dedicated ABS machine that has settings baked in.
Yeah. Something else to consider too is that there are predominantly two different types of filament sizes. There's the 1.75 millimeter and the
2.85/3. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I had for a while the Idea Builder and the Ultimaker, which meant, and they are each different. Different sizes. Right. So you have to keep 2 different sizes of filaments. the idea builder I gave to my brother, and all of that filament I gave to him.
Oh, you did? Okay.
Same thing with the ANET was the 175.
Who did you
and I gave
bless with that?
Bless. I gave that to my friend Mike, and I don't think about it anymore. But we have the Ultimaker and we have the Taz, the Lulzbot Mini in there, and they're both 3mm.
Yep.
So I can swap filament between any of them, and then the thinner stuff I just don't get. I just only have to get one size. Now the other one is the form that I have in there, and that just takes its own liquid, so that I have to get that separate. But I just have that kind of resin, and I only need one color. Everything I get gets painted, so I don't need like they're gray or black or clear or whatever. I just need one color. Whatever I can get that's the best and the cheapest, I'll grab that. And then for the ABS, I just get rolls of 3mm ABS in any color. I believe the last one you gave me was purple.
It was a very good purple.
Can't wait to start using that.
Yeah.
Was it aggressive?
It was very aggressive.
An aggressive purple.
An aggressive purple.
An aggressive purple.
So, some more things to consider should you be wanting to get into this hobby or include 3D printing in some way in your prop and costume making. Stormwolf has a question. Do you guys know of a good place to sell or possibly trade the printer you already have?
There's not a lot, as far as I know. Companies don't want to take in machines because the resale value, honestly, it kind of takes a dive. It's worse than used cars.
Yeah.
What you could do is consider donating that printer to a makerspace or a school STEAM program.
Yeah.
Even though you probably want to recoup some money from selling a machine, there's a lot of value in donating it, because a lot of times makerspaces and STEM programs, they have some money, but for them to concentrate even a few $100s for a single thing, it's not always something that works out really well.
I was curious, so I just quickly looked up here on Craigslist in the Seattle area and see if people are selling 3D printers. Looks like people are.
And you see a lot of people selling printers. You see a lot of printers that are low cost, and you don't know if they've actually sold them or not.
And whatever this is a massage chair.
That's a massage chair. I thought that was a Ready Player One chair.
I don't know. I thought this was the thing that Thor got pushed in to meet the Grandmaster.
Yeah.
But yeah, sometimes people are selling their 3D printers. Yeah. So you can totally grab one of these if you want.
Well, you could always try. You can always try to sell it. There's Craigslist is free.
Right.
OfferUp, the app is free. There's multiple other ways to do it, but don't go in expecting to get a bunch of money for it.
Paragon Props is curious how your G-Max 3D printer is holding up. That was your first 3D printer.
That was my second. So I started with something called the FlashForge Creator Pro.
That's right.
And I started in ABS.
Well, back then, that's what everyone was printing.
Everybody was printing with it. The G-Max was my second one, and I got it as a kit, and I put it together, and then it printed thousands of hours. I have since sent that back to G-Create. They refurbed it, and it's now touring different makers who are using it to make cool stuff. And so I have a different G-Max from that one, but it still has thousands of hours on it, and it's still, to this day, printing really well. I've had to grease some of the lead screws. I have a duster and I blow it off, but it's still printing. And I don't know how much of a secret it is, but G-Create does have another machine coming.
Oh.
Yeah.
Look at that.
There it is.
Pretty cool. Yeah, it's a big old 3D printer right there.
It is very large.
Awesome.
It works well. It is expensive for what it is, especially considering that you can get a CR10 really cheap.
Yep.
But a CR10 and 40 to 60 hours of maintenance, upkeep, upgrades, trials, tribulations, frustrations, or a G-Max, which comes pre-configured and you should be able to just print right out of the box. It's what you pay for convenience.
I still want to 3D print an entire helmet all in one go.
Yeah.
Which was a goal of mine. We tried to do it on the M300.
The Zortrax M300.
We had some issues. We had some trouble with that. But I still want to have a giant 3D printer and just dump an entire helmet model and just be like, go. and then come back in 2 weeks.
Helmet builds, helmet prints, depending on the orientation, usually we're looking at maybe like 36 hours. So a lot of people, when you have a helmet and you want to print it, if you put it upside down, a lot of times there's a lot more finishing you have to do on the top of the helmet. Yeah. So what a lot of people do is they orient it with the top of the helmet up. Mm-hmm. And then there's this cool trick where you model in a block that fits on the inside, and you can make it hollow or, very easy to print. And then you put some top layers on it, and then the support builds between that sacrificial block that you have up to the top. So then it works really, really well. I have some spare large format 3D printers that are just itching to be taken out of the box.
Now, can we set them up so that they can print in ABS?
Yes, we can. Okay. Yes, these are ABS.
This sounds like machines. A future collaboration to me. Those of you in the chat or watching live, if you have any questions, feel free to drop them in there. Just tag @PunishedProps if you like. I'd also like to point out that VexFX is in the chat, and I just saw him at TwitchCon, and he is a wonderful human being. He says that his Form 2 appears to have started leaking a bit from the tray. Uh-oh. Oh, no.
And that's one of those things. On 3D printers, there are consumable parts. I mean, the filament is consumable, but just like with a car, there are a lot of moving parts that need to be checked and updated. With a resin-based 3D printer, then what Form calls the tank, or the vat, that is a consumable.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
And if it leaks, it's like, well, crap, and you do have to spend the whatever it is to get a new one.
Mm-hmm. Another side note, so you had that Form 2 for a while.
That's right.
And then I got it back. One of the resins, I can't remember which color, but it had definitely been sitting in that tray for like a year.
Yeah.
For a while. And it seemed like it kind of separated.
Oh.
But I got some paint filters. Mm-hmm. You can get them at the hardware store. They're for filtering crap out of paint. I got some of those disposable filters, and I filtered all of that resin through one of those. I also scraped off the tank, the silicone on it, and then I went with isopropyl alcohol and I cleaned it all. And then I dumped the clean resin back into that tray, and it printed fine.
Yeah. Well, that's awesome. One of those things. It's a machine. You do have upkeep, but you shouldn't ever be afraid of breaking it. You shouldn't try to break it, but you can hack your way into cleaning a tank. I don't know about if it leaks. I don't know if you can I don't know if it'll take hot glue on the bottom. But I mean,
the trouble with that is that it's an optically clear silicone, and nothing sticks to silicone. You can get silicone adhesives, smooth-on sells it, but I don't know if that will bond to silicone and plastic.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yep. Yeah. But it's one of those things. If you have to get a new one anyway, and you have this old one, why not try it? Right? Why not, before you throw it away, why not see if you have to throw it away?
Yeah. Good question from Fatal Johnson. He's curious. He has to replace the nozzle on his Ultimaker, and he needs to know like what size thread or what size nozzle.
I don't know off the top of my head what threads those take. If you go to I think like Matter Hackers, Printed Solid, they will sell you.
Look at this, Matter Hackers. How handy is that?
Yeah.
Ultimaker 2 Plus all size nozzle pack.
So if you have the 2 Plus with the Olsen block, then you can get something like this. In fact, I have one of these, and it's awesome. One of the things you can do, though, if you have to replace the nozzle, you might want to look for plated nozzles or hardened nozzles, or possibly a ruby nozzle, which will last longer than you.
And this is a kit of 5 nozzles. If you have one that you like, just like if you only print a 0.4 nozzle, then you don't have to go the whole thing, the whole pack. You could just get a bunch of the.
Sure. You can also go on eBay and you can find yourself a pack of 20 or 30 nozzles for, $20-$30. But again, everything's coming from China. They may or may not work perfect, but you're getting 20 of them. That's another way to do it.
Now, is there a standard thread size for nozzles? Do you know?
So E3D is a company out of the UK, and they have standard threads for their nozzles. So if it's E3D compatible, Ultimaker is not E3D; it's their own, and I don't know the thread pitch.
Gotcha. So you could look up what Matter Hackers has, or other people have available for Ultimaker. So it would probably pay to actually buy one that says it's for the Ultimaker.
Right. And so on my Ultimaker 2 Plus, I have an Olsen Ruby nozzle, which means I can feed all sorts of just crazy abrasive stuff through it. And because it's a ruby gem, it will not erode away. Some people like these, some people don't. I happen to really like it. I have a lot of good luck with it, and I print crazy abrasive things.
Right, and that's a good thing to point out. I have the standard 0.4 millimeter nozzle on my Ultimaker. I do have all the different sizes, but so far I haven't had a reason to.
Well, you're throwing ABS. There's nothing in it. But if you're printing anything with carbon fiber or metallic additives, you're going to want something that's hardened or plated or a ruby. Also, glow-in-the-dark filaments are incredibly harsh on a standard brass nozzle because they contain strontium aluminate, which is a hard, sharp, and irregular particle. And when that's in your filament and your nozzle, your brass nozzle, when it's up to heat, it's really soft metal, and those will just ream the orifice.
That sounds gross.
It's not a day unless I've said
Nerdy Views has a question. He says, do you have a brand of PETG that you like? He wants to try printing in PETG.
I've had really good luck with the Matter Hackers Build Series PETG, and I haven't printed with all of it, but I've printed with the translucent blue and the green, and actually some of those spool holders were printed with the PETG.
Yeah, that's right. I remember destroying those.
That's right.
Yeah, and it looks like $25 a roll is pretty good.
I haven't had a lot of experience in printing other PETGs. I know they're out there, but I just haven't yet.
Look at this. I didn't realize this must be new. The more you buy, the cheaper it gets.
Yeah, they're trying. Matter Hackers, the build series for Matter Hackers is their low cost. Yeah. Also, I did get some PETG from Strong Hero 3D, which is another company. They make this splendid filament. That's the one that's kind of rainbow. So as you print, it changes colors. Oh. He also makes a PETG. I'm going to be trying that out.
Awesome. We are probably going to be out of time here really soon. So if anyone has any more questions, please drop them in the chat. Just tag @PunishPop so I can see it. Lewd. Awesome. Well, what do we have here? Speaking of metal filaments, this is from Crazy Uncle Dave. Is there a metric for how much copper or aluminum PLA that a standard nozzle will handle?
There's not, and the reason is you never know unless a company specifies how much of their filament contains how much of an additive. That's almost like a trade secret to some. Some companies do release a material data sheet, some do not, and so you don't know the quantity of the abrasiveness in the material. As an example, some carbon fiber PLA from Form Futura, like years ago, I printed 250 grams of it, and at that point my nozzle was already irregular and the orifice was enlarged.
You printed not very much.
Not very much. Less than a full roll, and it was already there.
It had already reamed the orifice.
It had already reamed the orifice quite larger.
Let's see. Silent Warlock was asking about PETG. I'm just going to link you to the Matter Hackers page there. All the PETG was right there. We got another one here. Razor Live says, why do people like the Ultimaker? There are much cheaper printers that have the same quality or better. So you have to decide where, what is important to you, how you want to spend your time, right? Similar to like the Prusa machines, Ultimaker. These are companies with impeccable service records, let's say.
Yes.
Right? Or very good service
Very good,
records. Yeah. You can get a cheaper printer. What you lose out on are usually things like warranties, service, customer support, that sort of stuff. Also, when I found out with the really cheap printer I got, which had no warranty and no customer support, but I mean, I spent $160 on it. Well, right. I spent more like $250 after I upgraded everything. But still, the factor that was the biggest difference between that or the Lulzbot that I have or the Ultimaker that I have is inconsistency in the product that I received.
Right.
So if I purchase an A8 from someone on the internet, right, and you do,
we're not going to get the same thing.
It's possible that we each get a different printer, because I had lots of people in the comments of that video saying, I got one and it worked just fine. Well, I got one and it did not work just fine.
Right.
That inconsistent quality level is what you pay for, really, as you pay more for a 3D printer.
Right.
Along with really good customer support, warranties, and all that sort of stuff. So you have to decide how much you're willing to spend to get those extra things.
There's always going to be things that there's always going to be products where a certain version of that product costs exponentially more, and people are just going to go, why do you need that?
Right.
And some people are they just want it. Yeah. Some people say it performs better. Some people don't have the time or the energy to put into the lower cost product to bring it to a certain level. Mm-hmm. I think it's just one of those things. You should never feel obligated to have to spend thousands of dollars to get started in 3D printing. But once you do, and if you need the consistency and the reliability and the service and the warranty and all that, then you start looking at the machines that offer that. It just happens that these machines usually are more catered towards a professional person who would then need to pay a little bit more money.
Yeah. I've had the Ultimaker for 2 or 3 years now, and I have done nothing to it. I have not had to change the nozzle. I haven't had to change any of the pieces on it. I haven't had to. It's just been flawless for 3 years, and I put miles of filament through that.
Miles and miles, tons of filament through that thing.
That's. I don't want to tinker with 3D printers. I built that one cheap one. I got it out of my system. I'm good to go. A quick question here from Janice Ku. How would you guys print custom lenses if you wanted to use a helmet without glasses? So custom prescription lenses.
Well, you wouldn't be able to print the lenses themselves. We don't have the ability to make that sort of optically clear.
Right. But
material.
You could print something and then mold and cast it.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely.
That'd be really hard. I would actually, because I have spare glasses. I have old pair of glasses. I would pop the lenses out of an old pair of glasses and retrofit them into a helmet. That's probably what I would do. Optically clear and 3D printing are two very difficult things to marry together.
Yeah, because you're dealing with things that 3D printing itself is the process of layering on top of each other. So not only can, if you sand and polish the outside of it, you're still dealing with these layers on the inside that you cannot sand or polish, and you're going to get blurriness, or it's not going to be optically clear.
Also, sanding and polishing it will possibly change the prescription too.
That's right.
Yeah. So that is a difficult challenge. Personally, I would use an old pair of glasses, but I've had dozens of pair of glasses in my life, and I have lots of old spare ones lying around. One more, and I think we will cruise on out of here.
Okay.
But Devilish Designs wants to know how much difference the slicer makes. There are a lot of free options out there, a lot of really good ones. I tend to use Cura a lot and Simplify 3D. Mm-hmm. And Devilish's Design is curious if it's worth upgrading to Simplify 3D, which is a paid option. Personally, I bought Simplify 3D, especially because at the time I was using my Dremel, and the default software for it, the supports were terrible.
Yep.
And then I swapped to Simplify 3D, and the supports were incredible. So in my opinion, it was absolutely worth it. It literally unlocked a level of potential for that machine that was not previously available to me. But I think in subsequent years, that was 4 or 5 years ago, the free options have gotten really good.
That's just it. There's nothing wrong with Simplify. Well, I'm going to say there's nothing wrong with Simplify 3D. I think their development cycle is a little long. It's been a year and a half since an update that they've been promising. But regardless of that, it used to be that you bought Simplify 3D because you wanted custom supports.
Right.
That was the big thing.
And usually that's what I would do. I'd normally print it on Cura. If it needs a lot of supports, I'd print it in Simplify 3D. Yeah.
But there are a lot of options for slicers that are 100% free. There's no reason you shouldn't try those first, because it's Simplify 3D is $150. You can try Cura, Idea Maker, Slicer, or Prusa Edition Slicer. There's something called Kiss Slicer. Those are all free with all sorts of different configurations that you can then change the options within. And if for some reason one of those freebies doesn't do exactly what you need, then explore the paid option of Simplify 3D. So that's what I would suggest. People are like, should I buy Simplify 3D? And then my first question is, well, have you tried anything else? Oh, yes, I've tried Kira. Oh, have you updated it? Did you try Idea Maker? What about Slicer? That's kind of fun. Or Kiss Slicer. Yeah. No, I haven't. It's like, if you have the money to just spend, then buy Simplify 3D and use it. If you don't, or you're on the fence, then try all your free options first.
Yeah, there you go. Awesome. Hey, that was a whole lot of information to throw at the people,
That
Joel.
was a lot.
Thanks so much for your knowledge and expertise.
That was a bunch of fun. I know that there are plenty of people that know more than I do, but I hope I've inspired some that don't.
None of them are in this room with me
That's
right
true.
now. Of course, those of you watching at home, if you haven't had a chance, you should head on over to Joel's 3D Printing YouTube channel.
That's
you
right.
can go to the3dprintingnerd.com to see everything. Or 3d.pn/anything apparently will take you to Joel's YouTube channel.
I guess. I got to work on that.
Head on over there right now and subscribe. I have been subscribed for a long, long time.
Hey, I hit 270.
Yeah! Up top.
And I just passed 30 million views on the channel.
This is embarrassing. If we go to my history, you can see which of your videos I've skipped. I watch most of them.
You watch? Yeah, you do watch most of them, but
especially the spooky Halloween one.
That was decent video. That was kind of fun.
That was really good.
That was fun.
Head on over there and subscribe right now, so that you can get this kind of knowledge dumped into your brain every single week. Thank you, Prop Tarts, for hanging out with us for the last hour or so. You guys are wonderful. I hope you have an awesome Halloween.
Happy Halloween, indeed.
I've been getting lots of people sending pictures of their Halloween costumes.
I'm so happy you're retweeting that, because it's just this wonderful feed of making that I have now.
A lot of cosplayers have kids now, and those kids have amazing costumes. They're so good.
My kids, David's gonna be pancakes. He's worn this. He's worn this just little thing, which is a picture of pancakes. And every year he thinks about these cool things he wants to be. And on the way to school today, I'm like, David, what are you gonna be for Halloween tonight? And he's like, pancakes.
Pancakes.
So everyone, pancakes.
Be pancake. Just be yourself. If you can't be yourself, be pancakes. All right, that'll do it. That'll do it for this week. I think we'll be back in the shop next week, so make sure you come hang out. All right, thanks, everybody. We'll see you next time.
See you next time.